On today's edition of the program, we are focusing on the Anglophone crisis, AFCON Total Energies 2021, not leaving out the inter-community war or tribal war in the far north region of the country, precisely in Logon and Shari division, which I equally tell you about Cameroon that has made strikes when it comes to exports of banana in the year 2021. We shall tell you more on how Cameroon has, done so much in ensuring that the lost glory, I'm talking about the banana sector, is gradually regaining. Those who constitute our package, or those are the package that we gather for you this morning on the program. And Gwaldys Bomotonguina is also here, and she will be telling us what the French newspapers gather for us. Especially, she will be taking us to the Lions Den to tell us how the Lions are faring ahead of today's edition of today's encounter. Bonjour Gwaldys et bon début de la semaine.
Merci beaucoup Lasha. Bonjour à vous et merci une fois de plus de rester fidèle à Debrief, votre émission de revue de presse bilingue sur MyMedia Prime et télévision. Alors ce matin, nous allons débuter avec le journal Le Jour qui nous parle de la crise anglophone au Cameroun. 8 employés de la CDC ont été enlevés. Ils se rendaient donc dans les plantations quand ils ont été kidnappés par des hommes armés non identifiés. Les détails sont en page 5 de ce journal. En page 3, le journal parle du conflit intercommunautaire dans l'extrême nord Cameroun. Les chefs traditionnels arabes Shoah écrivent au chef de l'État, son Excellence Paul Biya. Nous continuons ce matin avec le journal Mutation qui parle de la canne Total Énergie et du Covid-19. À savoir comment est-ce que le Covid a déstabilisé les équipes et hypothéqué la compétitivité du tournoi. Les détails sont donc en page 12 et 15 de ce journal. Nous poursuivons ce matin avec l'œil du Sahel, lui qui nous parle de la taxe sur les transferts d'argent au Cameroun. Le confrère pose la question de savoir s'il faudrait avoir peur de cette taxe. Les détails sont en page 2 de ce journal. En page 6, le journal nous révèle qu'une tonne d'explosifs a été saisie par la gendarmerie de Maroua. Nous continuons ce matin avec le journal L'Info Majeur qui nous parle en grand titre du football et bien sûr et bien entendu de la canne Total Énergie 2021 en posant la question de savoir ce que coûte la canne, ce qu'a coûté la canne en effet. Les détails sur les dépenses faites sont donc donnés en pages 6 et 7 de ce journal. Nous terminons ce matin avec le journal L'Entrepreneur qui nous parle de la douane camerounaise, les pilleurs majeurs de la mobilisation des recettes en 2022. Pour y parvenir, la Direction générale des douanes a élaboré une matrice d'action et d'opération devant l'y conduire efficacement. Les détails sont donc en pages 6 et 9 de ce journal. Mesdames, Messieurs, c'est ici que nous nous arrêtons pour cette revue de presse en langue française. Place à la découverte de ces journaux en langue anglaise avec toi, Lasha.
Thank you, Bomotonguina. Gwaldys. Thank you to televiewers for staying with us on this edition of the program. We're going to kickstart with Entrepreneur newspaper of Swaibu Tria. This morning is focusing on the 2022 finance budget of Cameroon, where 72 billion francs CFA has been allocated for the reconstruction of the war-stricken northwest region of Cameroon. Priority areas on page 7 of this edition of the set newspaper. On page 4, the paper is telling us that banana exports in 2021 increased by 10,750 tons as compared to the previous years. As we all know, the northwest or the southwest region of the country has been hit by the ongoing socio-political upheaval, making production very, very difficult, as we are told. The Horizon, on its part, is rather interested in the move or efforts of the government of Cameroon to fill up stadiums during this ongoing AFCON tournament. In its major headline titled government battles to fill up stadiums. The Lone English Daily, the Guardian Post, goes offensive this Monday morning on the action of a local administrative authority in Donga Mountain Division that has, according to the paper, cut the division from the rest of the country in what the paper terms blunder and overzealousness of power-drunk DO of Ndu Subdivision Adamu Shuaibu Ibrahim, considered the most peaceful in the northwest, according to the paper, since the start of the ongoing crisis. The division has been plunged into chaos by a controversial decision of the overzealous and power-drunk DO of Ndu Subdivision. We stay with the Guardian Post newspaper, the Guardian Post, to talk about the inter-community conflict in the far north region of Cameroon, where Arab Shua traditional rulers have petitioned President Paul Biya over the said conflict. Meanwhile, Municipal Updates takes us this morning into the Lion's Den to talk about, or to tell us that the brilliant performances of the indomitable Lions of Cameroon at the ongoing AFCON Total Energies is strengthening Cameroon's unity and indivisibility. We stay with AFCON news this time around with a News Watch newspaper to talk about government efforts to fill the stadiums or encourage stadiums turnout. To that effect, work and school hours have been reduced to encourage turnout. The decision, according to the paper, was made known through a release from the Prime Minister's office last Saturday. Schools and lectures to start at 7:30 a.m. and end at 1 p.m. And the work starts at 7:30 to end at 2 p.m. throughout the national territory and throughout the period of AFCON in Cameroon. Thank you for watching, televiewers. We are back in the studio to continue with our discussions this morning, and we are receiving, as usual, Amado Tanteh, who is a human rights defender. He's joining us this morning as usual. Good morning, sir, and welcome to the program.
Good morning, once more, Mr. Lasha. Good morning to telespectators of my media Prime Television. It's once more a privilege for me to be a guest on the program.
Thank you for joining, Amado Tanteh. We begin with the performances of the indomitable Lions of Cameroon that was put to question, but Cameroonians are beginning to come to terms that the indomitable Lions can go far or do better. But what is surprising most Cameroonians is the performance of small teams in quad small teams. There are a lot of surprises that have emerged during this AFCON tournament, Amado Tanteh.
Yeah, first of all, I will start by congratulating the Indomitable Lion for the amazing job they are doing. At least we are praying that they should continue with that spirit, so that at the end, the AFCON would not, this nation cup would not leave Cameroon. With regard to what you term small team, I think football is something they call a game. Anything they call a game, you know how the outcome is unpredictable. So anything can happen. We can predict. We can say that there's a smaller team and there's a bigger team, because what Algeria and the Equatorial. What happened between Algeria and Equatorial Guinea yesterday was also to tell us that we should never have confidence when anything that comes to games, because you might play very well at the end. The other person, once the other person scores even one goal, the person has defeated you. No matter how you have played, the person.
Sierra Leone and Cote d'Ivoire, many people were not expecting.
Those are the type of things. So that's why I'm saying that anything that is called game, it means that the result is unpredictable. Anything can happen. So I don't think that is surprising to me. Anything can happen when you are going to face any other team as it ought to be. You need to prepare very well to avoid any humiliation or anything negative to come your way.
The Guardian Post decided to be offensive this Monday morning. I mean, taking on to the decision or recent controversial decision of the sub-divisional officer for Ndu subdivision, that's in Donga Mountain Division of the Northwest region of Cameroon, terming or qualifying the local administrator as overzealous and power-drunk.
Indeed, the way some of these administrators are sometimes acting on the field, especially in the Anglophone region with regard to the current crisis, is I sometimes wonder if the reason before they taking some of the decision that they are taking there, because sometimes it's the decision taken by these local administrative authorities that sparked more, I don't say whether fire essence or more radicalism. Radicalized, their decisions sometimes are radicalizing the population, because sometimes when I see the decision taken by some of these people, I begin to wonder how do a reasonable man or a man of that state can take such a decision.
To cut off the entire division, a division that has been peaceful, you know, has been completely cut off from the rest of the country as a result of the singular decision of the DO for that subdivision. bikes were banned and other decisions as per the communique which the Guardian Post is relaying to us this morning?
No, it's really terrible. We pray that they should look into it as fast as possible, because sometimes I don't even understand whether there's hierarchy here in Cameroon, because sometimes when the SD or SDO does something and his hierarchy has also looked into it and see as fast as possible.
Does it mean that he might be working in collaboration with the hierarchy, meaning he cannot take a decision without consulting the hierarchy?
Well, if that's the case, let's continue to say that what we know as usual, that Cameroonian leadership in Cameroon is completely failed in all aspects. So if it means that the decisions are taken under the consent of their hierarchy, because I initially thought that maybe at his level, he took the decision on his own way, thinking that it was the right decision. Later on, he realized that it was not the right decision, and if the hierarchy can see such things and remain silent, then it's absurd to me that
Ladies, before I come to you, this recent decision that came from the Prime Minister's office, where the Prime Minister's office has decided to take a decision, reducing working hours as well as school or lectures are in Cameroon, saying that instruction came from the presidency. Now we have two-shift system of education in Cameroon, and schools now end at 1 p.m. in the country. And we know that by midday, the first shift, they used to go back home for the second shift to come. So what becomes of the two-shift system of education now? You as a human rights defender, does it mean that those who were, programmed for the second shift, everything has ended for them till the AFCON competition comes to an end?
The Prime Minister first of all by saying that, as you to say that the right to education should not be tampered with, no matter whatsoever comes away. Because you can bear with me that even in the conflict-hit Anglophone regions, we have been praying that education should be continuous unperturbed. But if, because of common football, I said let me call it common, because I don't compare anything with anything that has to do with
the reason, the raison d'etre behind the release from Prime Minister's office is to encourage stadiums turn out.
That's what I'm saying.
But do you need to stop schools or for people to go to the
decision is ridiculous. I don't know if sometimes these leaders are reasonable, or they are reasonable, and why taking some decisions at all, because I don't understand why they go ahead, because this thing they call patriotism is inborn. I don't know if this is by force, because no matter how you force Cameroonians, you do whatsoever you do. If they see that Cameroonians are not being patriotic, they are not doing what they are supposed to do, like go to watch football and all the rest, let the leadership of this country begin to think. It's time the leadership of this country begin to think what is wrong, because it means that something is wrong somewhere. It's not by stopping students from going to school that will force people now to go to start and watch football and all the rest. Because some of these things I don't understand what they are doing. When they start by telling people that the first shift, the school now runs to from 7:30 to 1 a.m. Meanwhile, about 2 years ago, when the issue of COVID-19 escalated, the government took a decision dividing the shift into two. The first one start in the morning and end by midday, and after that the second shift will start. When they are taking another second decision, contradict the first decision they took first time.
I was just wondering, I was having a conversation with somebody over the weekend asking that we were like trying to laugh over the situation, saying that, okay, let's calculate the number of hours as from 7:30 to 1 p.m. and see. So if it is, and see if we can partition it. Maybe that's we have not interpreted the decision of the Prime Minister to know if probably people will be going to school to end at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock for the other shift to take over. We don't know exactly what becomes of the other shift.
Or maybe there's no more shift.
No, first of all, they don't have to.
If there's no more shift, where will you keep the other children? It means that they are going to
maybe the second shift have never existed.
Whether first shift or second shift, they don't have any right to tamper with the education of these children, no matter whatsoever is going on in Cameroon. AFCON is important, same as any other thing is important, but nothing could be more important in that sense with regard to education. The AFCON cannot be more important.
But it's just for 2 weeks. It's just for 2 more weeks.
It's not just for 2. We know very well that this term is already going to, and on this term we have a lot of public holidays and all the rest, and the next term will be a very smaller term. And 2 weeks is too much for us.
Amado, there's another thing. President Paul Biya has reiterated that vaccine against COVID-19. He encouraged Cameroonians, even during his end of year or message to Cameroonians, he encouraged Cameroonians to go get themselves vaccinated. But apparently the Minister of Public Health of Cameroon, it would appear as if he didn't consult probably President Paul Biya before coming out with a decision that spectators or Cameroonians must get themselves vaccinated before they can go to the stadiums to watch matches. Reasons why the administrators are fighting so hard to fill the stadiums. But forgetting to know that there is another barrier, a very big barrier, which is that of COVID-19 vaccine. Is it not actually violating the rights when President Paul Biya, who is the #1 statesman, has actually said It is voluntary. Nobody will be compelled to take the vaccine. But he, however, encouraged Cameroonians to take the vaccine so that they can protect themselves and Cameroon at large.
I think the Minister of Public Health was appointed there to play his role as a Minister of Public Health. I don't see any reason consulting President Pobia for taking any decision as such. He has a role to play. He has a duty that he's supposed to do this, to do this. He knows everything that falls within his competency. And when he's taking any decision he's taking based on his own competency. All these things that we keep hearing in Cameroon on the instruction of his excellence head of state. It's not as if it's the head of state that is doing everything in Cameroon, but which is unreasonable. When you are appointed as a minister, you have a role to play. You must not go back to consult the president before you take any decision. It is true
but
that
the decision that Cameroonians must get themselves vaccinated before they can have access into the stadium. Is it not also tampering on the human rights? That's the big problem, not shutting down schools, because you can shut down schools. What about people who have not vaccinated themselves? How would they get access into the stadium?
No, I think I just said here that most our leaders sometimes when they want to take decision, they don't take a lot of things into consideration. But because I know that that's one of the criticisms that prevented Cameroonians from going to watch the football match. Because we're talking about the GO for Ndonga Mantum, about the decision that he has taken that is disturbing the people now, that's causing a lot of misunderstanding and havoc. And now we are talking about this other thing. And we are saying, I was simply saying that the leadership of this country, sometimes when they want to take the decision, they don't take some little things into consideration. Because when they want to do something as such, you have to reason very well, try to know the context at hand and know how to
should we say Madauja Malachi was helpless? The decision also came from CAF, health protocol.
No, CAF cannot just be imposing. It's not everything that CAF can be imposing on them like that, because it's the health of Cameroonians that matters a lot. And when there is anything, I think it's true mutual understanding between CAF and government of Cameroon that take decisions and such. It means that CAF must have proposed that decision and they accept it. But the CAF cannot just impose it on Cameroon like that, on the government of Cameroon, that they must, that one must have to be an obligation for Cameroon to vaccinate. It must have consulted them and agree with them for that to be like that.
Ok, Gwaldys.
Alors, revenons un peu à la crise anglophone au Cameroun. 8 employés de la CDC ont été kidnappés par des hommes armés non identifiés.
Well, these things will continue to say on a daily basis that, so I don't know why this separatist armed group will continue to target innocent civilians who are going about their daily activities to look for their own things to feed their families and other. I even saw another video of some of them that were kidnapped. They later on they were given guns that they have to join them in fighting. I don't know if fighting has become by force. You don't have to force someone. If you are fanatics or lunatics or something, as you have decided to die for what you call a state of Amazonia, you remain there and allow the other people to exercise their own right, because you have the right to take the weapon, and the other person has the right to do whatsoever the person is doing. At least arresting, I don't know how arresting or kidnapping these people will help us end this Anglophone crisis, because that's not the best way of doing it.
And some were even naked.
That's the worst of all, because when I saw a video coming from where of some students that were kidnapped in school by this separatist armed group and forced to strip naked, and all they even took video to that effect and shared it on social media. It's ridiculous. I don't know if these armed separatists they have human feelings at all. Some of them will tell you
that those are infiltrators. Those are not the real amber guys.
Well, that's why sometimes I always say armed group, because sometimes they might be right, but we cannot judge now to know who is a separatist or who is not separatist. We just know very well that anyone who is in Anglophone region who is armed in Anglophone region and not with military info and all that, we assume that the person is a separatist fighter, except otherwise proven.
Okay, let's also talk about the same CDC, talking about banana production. That saw or witnessed an increase in terms of exports. That was in 2021, 10,750 tons was realized. That was an increase in 2021 compared to other years. That's a big improvement, as we learned from the Entrepreneur newspaper.
Well, if the input is increasing according to Entrepreneur, then it's a good thing. I would think that even though we have the crisis has really paralyzed the CDC.
But the question is that these people who are fighting, can they not carve out certain zones or the things that still remain the pride of the people of that region, blocking and stopping workers from going to their farms or going to the CDC plantation to work, feed themselves? Is it not, counter, or is it not contradictory to what they say they are fighting for?
No, sometimes I think they are targeting, the problem is now is targeting the civilians who are working there, but their main target should be the government, because they know very well that the output, the products of those farms are being transported to the friend zone.
But so many people have not been able to send their kids to school, especially the CDC workers, as a result of what is happening.
That is where there's the greatest problem, that we are praying that these people should, they should spare these people to go about their daily activities, to look for what to feed their own family, because it makes life more difficult and more complicated for those who are using that as the only means of feeding their families.
Okay.
Toujours dans les conflits, il y a une tonne d'explosifs qui ont été saisis par la gendarmerie de Maroua, selon ce que nous révèle l'œil du Sahel ce matin.
He's talking about a ton of explosive that was seized by the Cameroonian authority over there.
Okay, in Maroua. Okay, so I think that's a good initiative. At least sometimes some of these things are I don't know how they are even imported to the country, because those are the type of things that people use in attacking the population, and we have a lot of casualties coming as a result of all this type of thing. We just thank at least the Defense and Security Forces for having intercepted this tons of
explosives. Who is sending those explosives? How manage those explosives past the port and all the rest and make their suffering?
That is the question we keep asking on it, because just tell us that you have network. These people, be the separate siders or those who are fighting the Boko Haram. Most of them have network within the country, and even within the presidency. Sometimes some are taking the presidency. Meanwhile, the people are already aware that they're already aware that something as such were going to happen. So I don't think it's something strange to us again, even as we have the conflict in Norway and Southwest.
Don't you think the heads should rule, the custom officials who are working in those areas, or should it also be blamed on the porous nature of Cameroon's border?
Well, somehow it should blame on the porous nature of the Cameroon border and the rate of corruption within the country. You know very well that one of the greatest problems we have here in Cameroon is the issue of corruption. Sometimes people come with goods as such, and they give bribes to the custom officials who are there to help them pass with their product without being checked. And those are where you have the consequences of this thing. And at the end now, it's Cameroon that will suffer because of the kind of things that are being imported to Cameroon.
Okay. Amado, Tanteh, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for coming. And before you go, what is your pronostic for today's game or encounter between Cameroon and Cape Verde?
Okay, I think Cameroon will win 2-0.
Okay, 2 goals to 0.
2 goals to 0, Cape Verde 2 goals to 0, yes.
2 goals to 0, and that's the same wish we are wishing the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon from this end. Televiewers of My Media Prime is on this note that we end today's edition of the program, which was produced by Christain, Tebong. Amado Tanteh is a human rights defender. He was here with us in the studio to give his inputs on what we sometimes refer to as nation building. Bomotonguina, Gwaldys, and myself, Lasha Kingsley, were here for the presentation. Tomorrow is another day. Bye-bye.